the subject of theological education is in major flux right now. I was just at a conference in Nashville this past week where I was with 3 deans and several other colleagues on a panel. And I think everybody who's paying attention to how people learn about God, how people learn to lead in the family of God, are recognizing that the system that we have inherited is no longer working nearly so well as it once did. And there's some people among us who would say it's had problems probably for as long as any of us can remember. But I was recently with the head of the American Theological Society, and this guy had been working in that role for 20 years, and he said basically the professional model that we've had for a very long time is fading, and we're going to have to find a way of forming people that is much more focused on their development as people and as people of character, and a lot less focused on just what they know. He said people are going to stop being so focused on what we know and want to know also who are we, what are we like. So I think that's a major shift, and it really presses us to kind of rethink from the ground up what does it mean to be formed as someone who loves God and who shares in God's life and work. And so I think these are exciting times as well as challenging times. So one of the things that I think helps to frame the question a little better for all of us who are thinking about the formation of Christian leadership in our time is to think about the shift in 3 major questions that have often been put forth as important for people to be formed in God's life and in God's work. The one that was with us a lot was certainly a major question that was being asked when I was a boy, was the question, what would Jesus do? It seems like a good question. Given our situation, given our challenges, given our historical context, the situation in our family or in our church, what would Jesus do here? And of course, that question by itself sets us into an analytical mode. We're starting to draw on our cognitive function, our ability to analyze, to sort things out, drawing on what we know about the Bible, what we know about our church, what we know about the situation, what we know about ourselves. It's not a bad question, but what would Jesus do is not a very biblical question, despite many centuries of people really focused on that. More recently, maybe since the 80s or so, Henry Blackaby and a number of other people have challenged us to think about what is Jesus doing? It's a different question. It brings us into the present, and it assumes a fundamentally different worldview, namely that Jesus is actually here, Jesus is up to stuff, and if we really want to, we can get in on that. I think the problem I have with that question is that it still leaves us in analysis mode. It still leaves us with the burden, the bulk of the work of figuring out what God is up to on our shoulders, and then getting on with the doing of it. A different question that takes us, I think, to a whole different place is the question, Lord, what are you doing? And how can I join you in that? The big difference there is, of course, that we've moved from analysis to listening. We've moved from a rational, focused on my problem-solving abilities to acknowledging the fact that Jesus is not just here to observe what we're doing, but that Jesus is actually the Lord of history, and he's engaged deeply and intensely in my life here and now. And if I want to, I can join the Lord in what God's up to, but I'm going to have to become a skilled attention payer. I'm going to have to become someone who's practiced and really It's more about the practice, the new practice every day of giving attention to Jesus than anything else, that leads us to kind of a new place in our formation as God's people, men and women, as well as God's leaders. So I think that's the trajectory of those three questions is a lot of what theological education is having to navigate. And as I've suggested, it really leaves us with a completely different set of challenges than we've had in the past. The challenge of learning ourselves and then calling others to be attentive to the God who is here. Emmanuel, sure enough, Jesus with the presence and life of God here with me and with us, that other big thing, God with skin on in the community that God has given me. So those are big transitions for us. So I think, we in Luke 10 are deeply interested in the formation of people theologically, wherever they are on the journey, whether they're 2-year-olds or 92-year-olds, whether they're women or men, whatever their background and their experience and struggle. We believe that theological education is something that the whole people of God and every human is designed to engage. And so some of the things that Luke 10 has developed over the years, including Church 101 and leader teams, are designed to take people on that journey of learning how to give attention to the Lord in the present, in the community of God. But there's lots more exciting things in the works, and I'll look forward to talking about some of those additional ways that we hope to continue to build dynamic, powerful followers of Jesus in our time.